Welcome to the Practical Entrepreneur. This is episode 21. Today we will be hearing from Orlando Cosme from the Good Shot Archery in Garden Grove, California. Enjoy the show.
But just give our listeners just a kind of little taste of who you are, where you're from, and besides what your hobby is of archery, give us a little your origin story of who is Orlando.
Well, my name is Orlando. Last name is Cosme, and I grew up here in Southern California. I was born in Washington. I'm a military brat, Army. My dad was in the military for 23 years, and he's from Puerto Rico. My mom's from Germany. After he retired, we moved down here to Southern California, and I grew up here in Moreno Valley, Sunnymead, back when I was younger. But Moreno Valley now, and I'm also a vet. I served in the Army, which kind of gave me my career in life, my real career, with working in communications, building cell sites, stacking towers, doing that for almost 20 years, maybe a little over 20 years, and led me to my job now as a contractor for Southern California Edison, which being in that career led me to being able to be an entrepreneur and open up my own business in archery, which is a hobby that went crazy. And that's basically how we're here today.
Good. No, I know a lot of people, would like to turn their hobbies into, their business. And unfortunately, either one, they're too lazy, they don't do it, or two, they think it's not possible. What gave you the courage to, I guess, take the leap into opening your own shop for your hobby?
Well, I guess most of all, it was my kids. One of my youngest ones got interested into archery, and we just started shooting again. I had been out of it for a while, and we just started shooting, found a great shop that we were going to, and started going to some local tournaments and doing things. And the shop that we were going to, unfortunately, went out, closed down, and through the owner, a great person, got me started in this and got me my first setup with equipment and everything. We bid on some equipment, and at that time it was I was sitting on the equipment and I was wondering what I should do, and a lot of people were like, "Hey, you enjoy this, you should just go for it, have a place to go." And my first thing was to just teach and coach children. And I sat and, stuff was in storage, and I finally thought, let me do this. So the first thing was I had a lot of quotes and people in life that taught me things and showed me a lot of things. And one of the things that stuck with me is a dream without a plan is just a wish. So you have to take that dream that you want, and you have to do something with it. You have to put something on paper. You have to create a business plan. If you don't put anything together, then you'll really not know what you need to do, not know the process. So that was big for me, was to get the process started, was to build my business plan. And then my father had passed away, so I was given some money to do something with. I took that with taking a risk at taking money out of my 401k to put it towards something that would be there for my kids, there for my family in the future, and also something that I could build to also supplement my retirement. And when I do retire, this is a place where I can actually work too and continue to do what I love, and also work at being retired as well. So that's kind of how it started and where it's at right now.
You know what? And that's, I think, a very good point that you brought up, was that it could be a way for, to supplement your retirement, where a lot of people always get stuck where they believe that their business will never make it big. And that necessarily doesn't always have to happen. And you laid it out very practically, where when I retire, if I'm able to continue to do this as I'm retired, I'd be pretty happy. And I think that's, I don't want to say it's everybody's dream, but everyone always wants a dream job, right? Something that they could do for the rest of their lives. And you're being proactive. You started doing, you're working your dream job as you're still working, but eventually this will just be your job. So I hope people who are listening hear that, because it doesn't necessarily have to replace your income. It just, you have to, because your income that you're getting from employment is hard to replace on a business. It takes a very long time to be able to produce the same amount of money and to be able to cover your costs and other expenses that come along when you're first starting off, because the business, as you probably know, it's like a child and it just sucks up money. So if there's something that you can kind of shed a little bit of light to, you're still working, in Edison, and you're doing this. If someone came up to you and asked you, I want to be able to start, let's just say, for example, a basketball club, what would you recommend to them, kind of being in that industry for sports, if someone wanted to start as of tomorrow?
I would say know your trade, know your competition, know where you're going to open the business, know where who you're going to be competing against. I was told a long time ago that the way to drive up your sales and to be competitive in a market is to be very close to your competition. That's why a lot of times you'll see an AutoZone, there'll be an O'Reilly's very close to it, because with that competition, it gives consumers options. But then, in my belief, options are beyond what you can provide as far as a retail. So, as a basketball club or something like that, it's based on your customer service. For me, I think we go over and beyond in customer service, and that's why we have a good customer relationship with our customers. So that's very, very important. You can be the biggest and the best around, but if you don't have good customer service, you won't see the sales. And I think that's one thing to look at is, can you provide good customer service? Are you a people person? Can you deal with people? Can you be honest? Can you relate to them? Can you relate to their needs, what they're looking for? Not what they don't need, not what you need to sell them, but what they need and what they can afford. And if you can have that kind of honesty and find the niche, find the location, and also think about your business plan. If you don't have that business plan in effect, you don't know what it's going to cost you to open that business up, what it's going to cost to keep that business going, because you're going to have to float the business for a while before it becomes profitable. For us, we're still not profitable because of the amount of money that's gone in to build the business hasn't become to return yet. So you want to get it to a point where you can get that money to come back in and help sustain the business and the overhead that it has, and then you start to look at what your profits will be coming in. So you have to think about all those things. I had, when I started out, I had the funds through my 401k. A lot of people, that is very taboo to tap into something like that, but my business plan was to help build that back up again in the long run and catch it on the back end. But the way I can provide for the other people that are involved in the business, it needs to come into play too. So you have to think about that as well.
That's really solid advice. Now, you had stated earlier that you got into archery because your kids got into it, or were you into archery and then you got your kids into it as well?
I first started shooting a bow when I was in junior high, 8th grade. And it kind of went into high school, and it wasn't a scholastic type thing. It was something that me and friends did on our own, just messing around. Needed something to do out in the country, how it was back then. So after that, I took somewhat of a hiatus for a while. But when I was in the military, I got back into it again, just leisure activity, getting into it, shooting, having fun. And then when I got out, there was a break for a while until one of my children wanted a bow and asked about it. So we started shooting, and then we got involved with another shop and met a great, the archery family is a big, great group of people. When you're out there doing things with people that have the same passion, it gets addicting. It gets, it's a lot of fun. It can be a single sport or a group sport. You can take it to wherever you want to go if it's just leisure. So with doing that and getting more involvement with the kids and everything, we took it to a different level. But yeah, it was basically in my adult, life later on. It's been about the past 8 years where we've been really, really involved with it, and it was through the kids.
Which one was it that was responsible for Good Shot Archery?
That was Miley. That's my 17-year-old. We had a hard time trying to figure out what we were going to name the business, name the shop, and I had all these different ideas, but we would hit roadblocks because, I would search after I thought of a name. I would search that name out on the internet or Facebook or Instagram to see if it was taken. A lot of them were taken already as groups or as somebody's individual social media. So I asked her, I said, think of a name. And she said, Good Shot. And I thought, wow, I like that play on words. And we went with that.
Now, is she also... Miley, you said?
Yeah.
Does she also know how to shoot a bow and arrow?
Yes. Actually, all the kids shoot. So my oldest, who's actually she lives in Texas. She shoots as well as her husband. They both shoot. And my son, Luke, who's here working in the shop. Actually, everybody's involved in the shop some way or form. I look at my oldest daughter. I call her the XO, the executive officer. She helps out with logistics and basically bookkeeping and finances, and helps me to keep things in order too. She's kind of a sounding board as well. My son is the shop foreman, if you will. He's runs everything as far as the day-to-day activities with the shop and the customers. Miley is our office manager. She works in the office. She does all the phones and scheduling, and works with orders and also customers, orders and doing the service part of it. And I have two younger kids that aren't here now, but they also shoot compound. Well, everybody. So let me go back through the list. So Bliss, the oldest, shoots a traditional bow, which is a more primitive style shooting. Luke also shoots traditional, but he does do some compound. Miley is strictly compound. Emma, she does compound and traditional. And then Nay, the youngest one, does more traditional but some compound and longbow. I'm more of a compound shooter, but I love the primitive style of traditional archery as well.
Now, you just went into really archery geek mode and started talking about compound and other stuff. I have no idea what that is. So to an average consumer like myself, what's the difference between, I used to make my own bow and arrow with like a hanger and then like straws, but like I'm staring at some of the stuff in here, and what's the difference between the two different bows that you were just talking about?
That's a good question. So there's a lot of different styles. So, traditional recurve is. Let me go back. So the longbow is is the oldest form of archery, really. Crossbows out there too, but we don't do a whole lot of crossbow stuff. But your longbow is going to be your oldest. That's just basically, like you said, one of those bows you'd see on television. Knights are shooting, back in medieval times and whatnot.
Like the Game of Thrones?
Yes, like Game of Thrones. Robin Hood. They're going to shoot a longbow like that. That's basically got no accessories on it. It's what you call shooting off the shelf. So there's nothing to hold the arrow on there but the cutout of the shelf itself. So that's a longbow. And then a recurve is going to have the tips curve away from you. It generates more energy, more draw weight. It's a faster. It was an upgrade to the longbow. And then you have that, which can be basically bare bow, and there's different styles where you can add accessories to that. But when you start to look at what can be used basically to further one's sporting career, then you're looking at Olympic style, and that's what you're going to see Olympic archers use. And they have a sight on it, and they have stabilizers coming off the front and rear, long stabilizers. Those are recurves as well. They have interchangeable limbs that are called ILF limbs. So there's a science to it. There's a lot. And the different styles when you shoot in tournaments can be different, from bare bow to freestyle to all these different styles. But to just give it that rundown: longbow, traditional bow, Olympic style, recurve. And then compound is going to be the one that you see that looks like it has wheels at the top and bottom. Those are going to be your fastest. They generate the most speed. And that's basically the differences between those styles. And then within that, you can have setups that put you in a different category. The actual setup of the equipment or the bow can put you in a different category of shooting.
That's really interesting. Now, I know this is a little off topic, but I always love to give advice to other business owners because it just gets me excited because I'm really creative. But have you ever thought of having a Game of Thrones watch night at the shop?
No, I know that is extremely popular. We haven't done that. That's a good idea. It's a good idea because there's different types of events that other clubs and shops put on locally. Even the 3D tournaments that we love competing in the 3D tournaments. That's a lot of good stuff. But to actually have, we used to play in the background. We would play videos of Brave and Robin Hood and different types of movies that Hunger Games, stuff like that. But it's not a bad idea actually.
Because there's this one epic scene. I don't know if you've ever seen the show where Jon Snow is trying to get one of his brothers, and I think it was Ramsay. I think his name was. Shoots. He was a really good archer, and he just shoots a bow and arrow and snags Jon Snow's brother, and then he pretty much kills him right before Jon Snow can capture him. I think that would be a really good parody if you guys would do that, with the your little ones here.
Yeah.
But so I know you had mentioned earlier about having good customer service and knowing your competition. What would you say is your biggest advantage with your competition, and what's your biggest disadvantage? So what's your weakness?
I would think the biggest advantage is being fresh and new. Customer service is still at the forefront for us. We still believe that how you treat your customer and how they walk away from this establishment and how they view us is important to us. Beyond a business point of it, it's how they view us as individuals when they leave here as people. I want everybody in here to be a good person to the people that come in here. You can have the worst customer could have the worst day and come in here and just have bad experiences at other places, whether it's in our industry or another industry. They can come in and have a very, very bad experience. I believe that when they leave here, the customer service that we provide should turn that around. I don't think that there's someone that you can't have be happy once they leave our establishment. It's important to me because at the end of the day, we're all consumers. We go into a place and we know the type of customer service that we provide, and we can see the type of customer service that others provide. And you know the difference of what's good and what's right, what's bad. So I think that's a big advantage for us, and the people you have providing your service, your employees. The type of people that you have in there, character to me is everything. And a lot of people don't understand the true meaning of character. And as I was always taught, having great character is doing the right thing in the absence of supervision, the absence of others. It's doing the right thing. That's important. It's very important to have people that have the same beliefs and philosophies that you do when it comes to that. Another thing is we're small. We don't have a huge shop by any means, but we have a warm shop. We have a shop where people can come in and feel very comfortable when they come in here. They don't feel overwhelmed with everything that's around, because you can feel that way when you go in some places, or you feel that you don't meet that certain clique that might be in there. We believe that this sport is for everyone, from the lowest level. I mean, I've had people come in with equipment that is just not great equipment, and it's not great equipment, but it's the equipment that they have and that they want to enjoy. And it's not us to determine whether they need to purchase the bells and whistles and the best new product. It's our job to make sure that they understand how to use that equipment, if it's safe, and if they can enjoy it. And if they determine at the time when they want to buy something or purchasing new, whether they buy it through us or not, if we've furthered the sport and made somebody happy, then we've succeeded.
That's really interesting to hear that, because, I snowboard. And when I first started snowboarding, I had a really crappy board, and I had it for 8 years, and I didn't know any better, right? And then you're here saying like, well, if they come in here with their, bow and arrows, and it's not the best equipment, we're not going to judge them, as long as that they enjoy the sport and continue doing it. That's all that matters to us, and I think that's really important. And it, if you obviously, that's what you're saying, you practice that, people will keep coming back. And I think your customer service was displayed just right now. Like, it's not about the equipment that they have. It's just, as long as that they come in here, it's like almost like they're escaping, right? They have their stuff at work, at home, and they come here, it's leisure. It's like, it's just your hobby, everything, all your problems are out the door. And it sounds like you're going to work with them regardless of what equipment they have.
Yeah, well, as a consumer, how many times have you gone into some place and you're happy because you have it? It could be a snowboard, it could be a skateboard, it could be just about anything, and you've walked in there, and I go back to being a kid and walking in some place and just being so excited to have something, and then the employee tells you that it's no good, you can't use it. And your feelings and everything just it sucks. So what you want to do is you want to give them all the options and say, hey, listen, this is an older piece of equipment. The technology is not there, but you can progress with this. You can study and know the form, have the proper form, have that all working until you can get something better. And it's our job to make sure that we can have them safely. We don't want to. Someone brings in a piece of equipment that's really not good to shoot. We'll tell you it's not that you can't shoot it and perform, it's just that it's unsafe, and this limb might crack or this string might break or something like that. We don't want nobody to get hurt, because there is dangers to the sport. So but it gives me a really good feeling when somebody can come in here and trust me enough to take that equipment that somebody else may have turned them away and said don't shoot it, or wanted them to buy something, and they can go out, and I tell you, 9 times out of 10 they go out there and they enjoy it and they shoot it, and then they come back and say, I'm ready to purchase. And I'll say, well, what's your budget? What are you looking at? Where can we get you comfortable? What do you feel comfortable doing? And we give them all that rest of the advice, and usually works out well for the customer and also us.
No, that's awesome. I think you guys are on the right track, and you guys will eventually be a very niche place, and you guys will probably be here for a while. What was the question?
Well, I can tell you this in the meantime. We're in this for the long haul. We've been here for 4 years now as a storefront. Beyond that, through the process of getting our permits in place, getting the shop built into a way that we could use it, because it was very hard to find a place. We're sole proprietor. There's no financial backing to this operation whatsoever besides what I put in on my own. So to find the place that we could afford, rent-wise, and had the locations where we needed them, as far as the restrooms, to where we could have a range. We don't have the biggest range in the industry by far, but what we do is we have a range where we can provide what's needed for most archers that are beginning, or some archers that just want to come in and they want to shoot some arrows into a bale. They want to shoot some arrows into a target. So that was important to me, and we want to expand. My long-term goals are to have a second shop. Whether it's going to be in the state of California or not is to be seen. I'm thinking we're probably going to expand outside the state, but we're not done. The struggle is still real. Business is. So we'll keep fighting and we'll keep staying around. We're around other shops that have been here for 40 years. When your competition has that type of clout and that type of longevity, it can be a little overwhelming and frightening. But man, I'm a vet. I'm a soldier, and we're gonna keep doing the thing, and we'll keep expanding. And like I said, we're here 4 years later. I had people tell me, "We'll see you done in a year," or "We'll see you." It's a tough thing. It's really tough. Hey, you got to have thick skin, and you gotta be tough yourself, and I think we are.
So I remember the question. So you've been in business for 4 years. What have been some of the struggles that you've been facing since the inception of the business?
That's a really good question. So the start of a business, you have to do your homework. First you have to find that location, and you have to go through the city and find out if that location is going to work. Okay, so once that's done, we're past that. So now you have to understand taxes. You have to understand bookkeeping. You either have to educate yourself, or you have to find somebody that's able to educate you. And I've done a little bit of both. So staying on your game with your bookkeeping is extremely important. Understanding the franchise tax board, if you're in retail, is extremely important. Understanding your city taxes is extremely important. All those things have proved to be very difficult. That going, most cities, Orange County, they provide tax seminars. Go to a seminar. Use those types of the help that's there. Use them. It's free to go to these seminars, and you're going to have EDD there. You're going to have the franchise tax board there. You're going to have all these people there. All your questions can be asked. Everything can be answered. Contrary to belief, most of them, they don't want to see small businesses fail. They want to see you succeed. So they are really there to help, but they are there to do their jobs too, and you have to pay your taxes. It's just something that you have to do. It's unavoidable. But understanding it and understanding what type of help is there to assist you is very important. Veterans have certain things. There's a lot of things that can help you to do that. Also, I would say social media, being out there, putting yourself out there, letting people know you are. Now, when we first started being in business, it's a scary thing. You don't know, you question yourself. Am I good enough to do this? Do I have what it takes to do this? So in the beginning I didn't, but I went and I got all the education I needed. I got the certificates that I needed to be a level 3 USA archery coach. I've got bow technician certifications, and you get all those things, and you have to take it slowly at first so that you don't overdo it. We took it slow at first when we first got in business. I was fronting a lot of the money that needed to stay open. And I knew that. I was already aware of that I would have to front money and to keep it the business going. But you want to make sure that when you start to get an increase in business, that you're capable of doing it. And we built to that. We weren't there when we first opened, and I knew that. And everyone's like, how come you're not, throwing yourself out there? You should be just on the streets and doing this. And I said, well, we don't have what it takes right now to support that type of productivity, to support that influx of customers and everything coming in. We had to build it. We had to figure out how to operate and how to get a system and a process in place. And then once we got that, now business is organic business, word of mouth, everything comes in, social media, all that comes into play. And we do a really good job as a small shop to take that kind of customer base, and we've done well. Business is not easy. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have everybody's a critic. So you're going to have people that appreciate you, and you're going to have people that don't appreciate you. You do the best you can, and you just try to keep providing that good customer service. And if that means, we have to do things by appointment based, so that we don't get over inundated with customers, and we're turning people. We try not to overbook. We try to. Sometimes it happens, and you have to roll with it. But that was one of my biggest worries, was that we would be overrun and we would look underqualified. So I guess that's the best thing I could say. Make sure that you can get the things in place to make you qualified and competent, and then get that business in and do a good job, and slam it, knock it out of the park, do good business.
Sounds like a pretty good blueprint. So you get the stuff to be competent, provide a good customer service, and eventually, and reputation, word of mouth really kind of keeps you, afloat. Now, as you were, this is such a niche business. Do you have a lot of competition? Do you see yourself sustaining? You say you're going to be here for the long haul. Do you ever think archery will ever be mainstream? What do you see the future in archery?
That's a extremely good question. Okay, because you look at this is one of my biggest things. This is why I enjoy working with the youth, because with many things, it kind of starts with the youth. How you can pass it on. So traditional sports like basketball, football, things like that have been ingrained in our society and do really well. And it's what's the deal with archery? Why is it not completely huge? Soccer's huge, baseball is huge. Why isn't archery like these type of sports? Well, I think one is we've taken archery out of the schools. You talk to a lot of people that come in here and they're like, well, I used to do archery in school, and it's gone. Some schools are bringing it back. You got charter schools that have programs. You got programs, National Archery in the School program, NASP, and it's starting to come back. I think it's a great sport because it teaches discipline, and you have to have great discipline to be a good archer. Not everybody possesses that. Everybody can shoot for fun and have a lot of fun, but the top athletes have an incredible amount of discipline and skill. Those sometimes people get discouraged, so they don't shoot as long as they should to learn the sport. So it's always good to take a lesson and understand how to do the sport. That's very important. If you can get the pointers, in the past people weren't as giving with pointers either. They didn't want to teach you how to be a good archer. They didn't want to do that. They were keeping it a secret. We're going to give you all the information you need to be successful. It's important to us to see you have success. So I think that's one thing is, spreading the sport the best way you can, getting more people to shoot, understanding that it's not only just an individual sport, but you can shoot as a team, as a group, and encourage others. But the fact that it can be an individual sport is good for those kids, and this is important to me. It's good for those kids that don't fit into traditional sports. A lot of kids, these type of things really do break my heart. Growing up, I was never the type of person that singled people out like that. I was more of a build up your morale kind of guy. I was picking the guy that always got picked last. I was picking him first, and winning. Because I think you can build an attitude of winning. I think you can build people's morale by your leadership. So it's those kids that I want. I want those kids that don't get picked for those traditional sports. Come see us. We'll show you how to be an athlete. We'll come teach you how to be an archer and how to enjoy shooting yourself and enjoy shooting in our community. The archery community is a great community, and it provides a sport that anybody can do, male, female, handicapped. It's something that everybody can do, and that should really build the sport and make it a bigger sport. Spreading it. You have friends that don't shoot, invite your friends to shoot. We do groups and everything. Archery's not shown on. There's no Super Bowl of archery shown on TV. There's no, on ABC you're not going to see it on Sunday, or whatever sports channels, Fox Sports. You're not going to see that. You're going to see the more traditional sport. That hurts too. But it's very much like some sports. They're not thrilling to watch because the action's not there. But if you're an archer, you can understand and respect the skill it takes. Very much like golf. A lot of people don't like golf. It's a very hard sport to watch on television. But if you've ever hit a golf ball and seen how difficult it is to swing
yeah,
right. So you can respect the skill it takes to be a good golfer. So if you could do that, and we saw it a little bit more mainstream, televised, if there was more of that, it's going to be hard. I think 3D archery is really something that could propel the sport too, because the cool thing is you're getting outdoors, you're on a roving course, and you're shooting at three-dimensional targets. So that's a lot of fun. And I guarantee anybody that shoots with the right setup, the right type of bow, the right area, the right distance of the target, the right form, and they're taught that, you will enjoy the sport and you'll progress and you'll keep doing it, and you could share it. That's a big thing. If not, if you just grab a bow and you go out there and you try to do it on your own, one, you're going to get what people in our industry call arm slap. It doesn't tickle, especially if you're overbowed and you have the wrong poundage. It can hurt, it can leave a mark, and that's when people put the equipment down. Well, that's a simple form issue that can be fixed by one lesson. So I encourage people to take a lesson, and no matter where you take it, make sure you take a lesson, and you can learn a lot from that, and all those things progress the sport. I hope I answered the question right.
No, you did. And when you said discourage, when someone comes in here for the first time, and let's just say they're discouraged because they just sucked. I mean, to keep it, simple. What do you do to encourage customers to get better?
Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to identify what the issue is. With children, we find that most of the time when we have a difficulty teaching someone that's young, it's in their attention span. It's if they're paying attention, if they're listening to the instruction. You find that more of the children that we teach that do better faster tend to be female. Boys can be very difficult running around. Their attention's everywhere else. They just want to pull back and sling arrows. You'll find that if you can gain their focus by eye contact, very critical. You want to make sure the person you're instructing has your full attention. When they don't have your attention, they don't see the success, and that's what it is. It's 9 times out of 10, it's because they're not paying attention. They're not listening to the importance of an anchor point, and importance of how you grip the bow, and importance of how you hook to the string or attach your release to the string. All that stuff's important. So it's about maintaining focus throughout the whole instruction, and then you got to identify. Also, what is, don't try to fix everything at once. You want to just try to fix a problem. You want to encourage along with making sure they understand the mistakes they're making and things like that. So success is really, you can make sure that anybody can have success on how you instruct them. You can do things like a lot of times you want to remove the target, because when people focus on a target, they're looking for that short-term success. Well, archery doesn't really work like that. Some people can be very good off the bat, but most people are going to have arrows that don't exactly land on the bullseye. So if the bullseye is not there, then they're not focusing on hitting that bullseye. They start to focus on the form, which is most important first. Then later you implement a target, and they can start to have the correct. don't forget their form, and they'll be more successful. So it's important to make sure that when you instruct, you have patience, and you understand that all athletes are different. So, and all students are different. So once you kind of figure that out and figure out your approach, you can make everybody be very successful. There is some that, if it's just not for them, it's just not for them, and that happens, But most of the time through our lesson, we have a lot of people that had a great time, and they come back, and they even have said, I did it before, but this was way different, and we learned a lot more. I love that, because I know that we have a good attention to detail with our instruction process.
Now, sounds like you have your plan whenever you have a customer that's having a difficult time with archery. But when you're having a difficult time with business, what helps you keep going and persevering?
Taking a break. I found that I can be very, dedicated, and I have to have that time where I can just go out and do what I enjoy to do. It's, what most people say, recharging your batteries. Once I've gone out and I've refocused, going out doing whatever it is I like to do, once I've gone out and spent that time with family, or going out and doing something that I enjoy, I'm still thinking about my issue, but it's not as big. I'm going to have a good time, and 100% of the time I'll say that my solution comes, and I can go back into that, and I fix the problem, and we're good to go. But sometimes when you over inundate yourself with business and work and everything like that, and you don't take that time to get away, step outside of it, and recharge your batteries, it's very negative, and it's hard to work out of that, But once you recharge your batteries, for me, I have a new look on life again, I guess you would say, and I can get back in the ring and knock it out of the park.
So recharging your batteries is crucial for you then?
Absolutely. Yeah, I tell people close to me that if I don't get out on a dirt road somewhere, out in the woods somewhere, I'm a very grumpy person. And it'll be, it has to reflect on business, personal life, work, everything. If I can't get out there, I love to be outside. I love to be away. I love to be secluded. I love to get that time where I can just reflect on what's important, with who's important, and then come back, and it's just a new person. Yes, absolutely, 100%. That would be the best thing that I can do to come back in and fix the problems that I'm facing. The adversity I'm facing is to just get out there, enjoy life. It's on your mind. Think about it. Most of the time, solution presents itself before you get back.
I can relate with that 100%, because when I go snowboarding and I'm going down the mountain, I am not thinking about anything else but that moment. In snowboarding, if you always have to look ahead. As soon as you start your head starts moving from side to side and you look back, you'll lose your balance. Or at least I do. I don't know if maybe it's not experienced, but so I understand. Like, I went snowboarding this last weekend, and it was a nice little recharge. So it's kind of, you get away. So I completely understand that recharge that you need. Now,
it could be as simple as turning everything off and going home and sitting on a couch and watching a nice television show. Just relaxing, not doing anything, just sitting there, and I can just sit and have a good time. And same thing, just turning it off.
When no one's looking and you have a bad day, do you ever come in here with like their picture and put them on the back of the board and shoot arrows at it?
I've never done that, but there has been a picture up in here that some of the other folks in here did put up on the board and take some shots at.
That's funny, because I think I seen that I've probably seen it in a movie somewhere where like, you start shooting at stuff. Aside from being, a family man, a business owner, a dad, is there anything else that you want to share that will kind of give a different light on who you are and what that, I guess, trying to get to, like, is there another, besides archery, what other hobby do you like doing?
Dirt bike riding. I love to ride dirt bikes. That is one of, I tell Hunter is a young man that works here in the shop that's a very successful archer at a young age. And he always used to ask me, I tell him, no, archery is not my first love. Riding dirt bikes is actually my first love. I love being off-road. I love riding dirt bikes, but I'm not a mechanic. I can't work on bikes. I can do minimal stuff, but I just don't enjoy it.
You got to know how to fix your dirt
Sure.
bike if it breaks down.
Yeah, so having a business in that industry was just not going to happen. But I love riding dirt bikes. I love to fish. We do hunt as a family too. But I love that, being out in the wilderness and being out in the desert and being out there in those areas, those harsh environments. And I just love it. So that's why dirt bike riding out in the desert and up in the mountains is a big thing of mine. I think those are pretty much my main things to do. I am the type of person that can kick back and just watch a movie. I like watching movies, like TV, watching good shows and stuff like that. Although sometimes I can be a tinkerer and my attention can be swayed and I'll end up tinkering on something. So that happens too. But I think those are probably my biggest things that I like to do outside of being a parent and the business and working and everything like that. And I like to spend time with my girlfriend. She's pretty cool.
Have you ever thought of combining archery and riding a dirt bike?
Well, they do have. I actually forgot about that form of archery, horsebow. Yeah, there's people that do that. But I don't know. No, I haven't thought about that. You can. They have mounts where you can attach your bow to a quad runner or a motorcycle on the handlebars and go out with it. But boy, shooting it and riding a bike at the same time.
That sounds like a really good commercial. I don't know.
I know.
I'm just telling you, the creativity here is bananas. You can do so much with a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Is there any last piece of advice that you want to give to someone that is hoping or would love to get into a very niche business like yourself?
Yeah, I said earlier that one of the things that it's a saying that I've heard about, a dream without a plan is just a wish. I think if you think about that and you understand it, it's very important. Another one that I like is if you're not willing to change, you'll never be cutting edge. That one's important to me because as we get older, we get stuck in some of the ways we think and some of the way. Listen, I grew up with rotary phones. My first cell phone was a Nextel brick or a flip phone. The direct connect, bleep. All those things are gone. You ask someone today, what a payphone is even, or anything like that. So my point is technology changes, and if you're not willing to understand who you have around them and trust them to advance you in that technology, whether it's through social media or how your POS system operates, you're going to not progress. And if you're not able to progress and keep up with everybody else, you're not going to be successful. So it's being willing to change. And like I said, as we get older, we get stuck in our ways and how we did things, but you have to be open enough to understand that things change and you need to adapt to that change and move forward with it as well. That's very important. Continued education is very important. a lot of jobs, a lot of people spend a lot of time to get degrees, and it's very difficult to get into the workforce after you obtain your degree. And sometimes, you might be able to find the same thing in the form of a certificate or a lesser degree. Sometimes people get jobs in careers that they don't even have a degree in. So you got to think about those types of things. My education was all provided on the School of Hard Knocks and the military. The military provided me a good launching pad to get into communications.
I love the military. Probably give you a lot of discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you gotta, as someone young, think about all those things. Think about that, and also you want to make sure that you have a plan. You got to have that plan. You got to have, if you're gonna be an entrepreneur, you're gonna open up a business, write that business plan down. Make changes to that business plan. And I'm talking pen to paper, scribble it down somewhere. Get a book, get a 3-ring binder, start getting your pages together, start drawing sketches, start drawing ideas, proposals. You have to get ahead of the game and be ready to do that when the time is right. I think those are some key points. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't forget, life is good. If you're alive and you can do the things that make you happy, that's important. Remember that life is short. A lot of kids today, when I was a kid and someone said life is short, and I was like, whatever. I got a whole life ahead of me. No, you don't. And you'll see right about when you hit 30. 35 comes, 40 comes, and you look at where you're at in your life and you realize I wasted a lot of time. I wasted a lot of time because your goal in life, and it's hard for me because I haven't achieved everything that I want to achieve, but your goal in life should be where you want to be at, and comfortable by the time you're 50, right? And then you should start looking at retirement, because your 20s, 30s, and 40s should be built on making that. And I think a lot of kids, which is a good point, because I never had anybody, being the son of immigrants, and I love my parents. They were intelligent people, but they just weren't I'm a first-generation American. So their way of doing things was different, and nobody really taught me about retirement, and all along came the 401k. Back then everybody was retiring out of a business or a company that provided that for you. Not anymore. You have to provide it for yourself. So I would tell that's the most important thing actually from all of this. If you're a young adult today, start working on your 401k. Immediately start working on your retirement, because if you start early, then by the time you want to retire, you won't have to worry about anything else. You won't have to worry about Social Security or anything like that. You can have enough money for your retirement, because everybody's talking, is it going to be here? Is it going to be gone? Start working on your retirement. Start that 401k.
And I think not only just on your 401k, but even if it's like your archery business, this is kind of like your retirement. If you just take very small steps and keep chugging at it, this will be your retirement, but it won't seem like work.
Definitely. And I had to make that choice because I was a late bloomer on my 401k. So it was like, this was a late choice to make. Can this be something that obviously helps anybody that's associated with it, but also supplement my retirement in the long run? So definitely was not exactly the way things probably could have gone, but I'm glad they did.
Last question. And before we end it, was able to get a lot of nuggets through the answers that you provided, and this question has nothing to do with what we've been talking about, but is probably equally as important. Who are you going for in the Super Bowl? The Rams or the Patriots?
Okay, so that's a great question. So I'm a Raider fan. I know. Boo!
Raider games are fun. I've been to several. There's been about 3.
Well, as a Raider fan, and all these Raider fans will know exactly what I'm talking about, and that's Tom Brady should not even be here because of the tuck rule. So we never forgot that. We know that tuck rule is what made Tom Brady go to the Super Bowl against the Rams. So that being said, it's cool. Guy's a great quarterback. That team figures out a way to win, and that's a great, point. Look at that team, that how it's put together. Now, this is probably one of the reasons why I can appreciate it. So most of the people on the Patriots team are not first-round draft picks. A lot of that offensive line, we're talking 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever. I don't know the exact, but I know that a lot of them were not the premier picks. Wow, they're going to the Super Bowl, right? Because that team is a team. Belichick is a great leader. His man on the field, Tom Brady, is a great leader. He propels that team to win. It's amazing, right? The Rams, young. They got this new young team. They got number 1 picks. They traded for all these draft picks and got all these people in place. They're built to win the Super Bowl. The Patriots aren't built to win the Super Bowl, but they're in the Super Bowl. The Rams are supposed to be there. The Patriots shouldn't be. You look at the first, after the tuck rule and that all happened, Brady plays the Rams as a young, star coming up, taking place of Drew Bledsoe, and the Rams were the greatest show on turf. Brady beat them. That team of kind of like nobodies beats the Rams, and now you're looking back years later, however many it is, and the situation's the same, except Brady's the GOAT and probably on his way out, and he's going to play this team that's set up to be in the Super Bowl, to win the Super Bowl, and he's got this team of
misfits.
Exactly. So that quarterback's amazing. That guy's amazing. I am not a huge Rams fan, but I am an LA fan. So I guess being LA, I'm going to pick the Rams, but I am not counting Belichick and Brady out. This is actually what I wanted to see. It would have been nice to see Breeze and Brady, but we didn't get that. But it'll be a good game. It's been a while since I sat down and watched the whole Super Bowl, but I might do this one.
Yeah, we can't take any credit away from the Patriots and Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, I don't know if you know this, but he takes pay cuts. He's not the highest paid quarterback. And if you look at it on a business perspective, this guy's taking a pay cut on his biggest strength. Yep. But he's thinking long term. He's thinking about his retirement. No one ever remembers who has the most touchdowns, who's has the most yards, accuracy, quarterback rating. We always remember winners.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's leaving money on the table, at least as an athlete, so he can be a winner.
Yep.
Because when he retires, he is not going to have an issue doing anything.
He's good. He's
so
good to go.
That should be a very valuable lesson. Like, you know what? Don't worry about, in the beginning. It's fine. Don't pay yourself. Take a little bit of a pay cut. It's fine. It'll pay itself in the long term.
If you look at it, this guy's got 9, I think it's 9 Super Bowl appearances, 5 wins. If he wins, this will be 6. You never see that again. You never see a team that dominant again.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not rooting for the Patriots. I respect them.
I'm not either.
I hate them deep down inside, but I'm rooting for the Rams, and I would love to see the Rams end the dynasty since they're the ones that started it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, kind of the tuck rule.
Yeah.
I know. The tuck rule. Oh, it's just that was it. A fumble. Game over.
Yeah.
Game over. But
yeah.
It is what it is. Orlando, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, sharing your story. I wish you nothing but success for your shop. But let's have a little fun this time. It's 2019. Let's do a little something different for the show. So, like I had stated earlier in the beginning of the show, you guys participated in the softball tournament. And one of the cool things that I like to do is do stuff that's different. And for that softball tournament, I had guys who have a podcast and did announcements. Oh, they kind of called the game, and they got nicknames. And one of the best nicknames was White Shadow.
Yeah.
So
White Shadow's a good one.
So I think we should do hashtag White Shadow.
Okay.
So I think we should do this for the people who are listening. Anyone who tags or uses the hashtag White Shadow on your Instagram feed or your Instagram page, what can Good Shot provide to them when they come into the shop?
Okay. Since we like to target, making the sport bigger, anybody that hashtags White Shadow comes in for a lesson, bring a friend, make it a date, make it father and son, mother and daughter, mother and son, whatever it is, and we'll provide 50% off our normal double rate, which is a pretty good discount. So,
fair enough. So there it is, listeners. Hashtag White Shadow. Look for Good Shot Archery on Instagram. You guys get 50% off a date to come learn how to shoot. And at worst, you'll learn how to shoot a bow and arrow, just in case, you bring a boyfriend or girlfriend and they get out of control and they start running. You can probably shoot them in the calf as they're running away with a bow and arrow and teach them a lesson. But
that'd be a heck of a shot. And if you ask, for White Shadow specifically, he'll be happy to help.
Happy
to help.
Cool.